politics in the first place, fighting redlining in as a county councilman. And it is real, it is systematic, and it covers every aspect of the system. You know, Senator and I mentioned John Lewis earlier. John Lewis's life reminds us the most powerful symbol of what it means to be an American is what we do with the time we have to make the promise of our nation that we are all created equal and deserve equal treatment real. That's what he believed, I believe, and so does the senator. While so many of our Republican friends are rightly honoring John Lewis this week, and I was glad they did, from President Bush, who made a good speech, all the way to many members of the Congress. They should honor him not with words, but with lasting action. The Senate should immediately pass the bill to restore the Voting Rights Act, which, by the way, the last time it was signed into law, it was signed by George W. Bush. I was the guy that sent it to him as chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Renamed in John's memory. Protect the sacred right to vote that he was literally willing to die for. And if it doesn't, it'll be the first thing I'll do as President of the United States. Because John left us with a charge that's echoing across the nation, calling us out in every county, no matter where we live, calling out to a country where, I said many times, over 150,000 dead from COVID, 30 million unemployed, black and brown communities bearing the brunt of the crisis. This have they done with so many before. This is, I said, a wake-up call. It's past time we fully confront systemic racism that still infects every part of our society. To end our economy, our growing, even when it's growing, the economic inequities that exist. To deal with the denial of our nation's promise to so many for so long. As president, I'm going to fight every day to lead some of the following changes, and I'll listen. I laid out key steps that Congress should take immediately on real police reform, including chokeholds, creating model use of force standards, hold all cops to a high standard that so many already meet, and so much more. I'll invest in shifting our criminal justice focus from incarceration to prevention, ending cash bail, delivering drug offenders to rehabilitation, mandatory rehab, not prison. Investing so much more in reentry when they get out of prison to have them have access to everything from Pell Grants to housing. We need much more than police and criminal justice reform if we're going to rip systemic racism and inequity out of our country. That's why I've made racial equity the central plank in my Build Back Better plan for economic recovery. It covers everything from infrastructure to housing to education. It targets racial wealth and income gaps, rebuilding a stronger, more inclusive middle class that finally deals everyone in. Here's one example. I'm going to launch a new small business and the senator knows a lot about this. I'm going to launch a small business opportunity initiative, expanding what the Obama-Biden program was, to boost investment in small businesses of color that are the foundations of communities of color. And I'm going to do that by investing a lot more money. Right now, we put in our last administration $1.5 trillion. We're going to make that $2 trillion. That brought 30 off the sideline. Billion. It's about 30 billion off the sidelines. People, when they know the government thinks this is worth investing in, outside folks come in and invest in it. Well, I'm going to spend $300 billion investing in that. I'm also going to fight to end the deathly health inequities that COVID amplifies. Expand Obamacare to provide a public option to get to universal care. Double funding for community health centers that are vital on the front lines. Make coronavirus testing, treatment, vaccine free for everyone. And I'll give every single child a sense of a strong start in life, providing universal pre-K for 3 and 4 years old, which significantly increases their prospects of succeeding. Triple Title I funding to poor schools. The gap between rich and poor from 15 to 45 billion a year, increasing the salaries of public teachers, putting significantly more social workers and school psychologists in our schools. Make public college free for any family earning less than $125,000 a year. We're in a battle for the soul of this nation. The country is crying out for leadership. A president has to be part of the solution, not the problem. And I really believe, as Elizabeth said, and Senator Warren said at the beginning, the country's ready for it. Mm-hmm. Let me give you one example and I'll stop. I'm sorry to go on so long. But look, a guy who's been a great friend of mine for a long time, Benny Thompson, Congressman Chairman Thompson, in the House of Representatives. I asked him to be the chairman of our national convention. He called me, I guess it's going on maybe 15 days ago now, Elizabeth. And he said, Joe, you won't believe it. There was this march we just had in Mississippi, and I forget how many people he said, 1,000 people were marching. And here's what he said, with some energy in his voice. He said, Joe, you won't believe it. There were as many white kids as black kids in that march. And Joe, this is Mississippi. This is Mississippi. Mississippi decided, they voted to take the Confederate flag off of their flag, while the President of the United States is walking around figuratively carrying a Confederate flag. While the President of the United States is saying he wants to veto any bill that provides funding for our military and our soldiers, if in fact we rename bases that were named after Confederate soldiers and generals. Come on. The President has to be part of the solution, not the problem. Sorry, Elizabeth, it takes so long.
No, don't be sorry. I love everything you have to say. And I'm so glad you started by talking about the Voting Rights Act. If everyone who's on this call tonight used their voice to pressure Mitch McConnell to take up the renewal of the Voting Rights Act, we could start putting some wind in the sails here. It's already passed the House, so use your voice to pressure McConnell. Remember, too, he is on the ballot in November. And if he's not willing to bring the Voting Rights Act to the floor in the Senate, then use your voice to vote him out if he won't do it. That's how we should make this work. As for your question, Katie, as a nation and as a society, we have some serious soul searching to do. Racial disparities persist in wealth, education, employment, housing, health care. And at a time when COVID-19 is disproportionately killing Black Americans and when Black businesses are going under, I know that it can feel as if this is the way things always have been and always will be. But we are not without hope. The deep injustices we face are not inevitable. They were created and facilitated through racist, hateful, bigoted public policies. And that means we can make change through different policies, through brave, inclusive, moral public policies that attack broken systems head on. We need to be intentional about centering race in every aspect of government. Joe made that commitment just now. He made it this week when he released the last pillar of his Build Back Better agenda to advance racial equity as a part of our nation's economic recovery. Together, we can do two things right now. We can elect Democrats up and down the ballot to put leaders with progressive values in positions of power. And then the second thing we can do is after November 3rd, we can hold those elected officials accountable to make real change.